In this video, we're gonna be breaking down how Gyada Kamsky managed to reach the top level of chess by mainly using the London system, but also how he's keeping himself up there for more than a decade. Before we dive right in, please make sure to use the timestamps from the description and check out the games that you find the most relatable for your rating range. Alright, so we're kicking things off with a game against only a 2100 rated opponent, and you can already see that Geta is a huge favorite, being ahead more than 500 rating points. But if you're new to the game, I can tell you even till this day, the 2100s can be pretty tough, and perhaps this is what makes the game of chess very beautiful. If the underdog is playing a good game, I mean, no matter who you are, you're gonna be having a pretty tough time, and you still need to prove that you're better. So, Kamsky goes for d4, we see knight f6, and then knight f3. The main reason why I picked this game is because I think we're gonna see a super common theme, especially for lower rated players. After e6, bishop to f4, black goes c5, and now we see e3. Knight to c6, knight b2 d2, just a nice little move order. c3 is also fine, not really like changing much, but Geta starts with a knight. Now, I see in some of my students' game that they end up facing moves like queen b6, which is actually really bad when the knight is on d2 because knight c4 is super juicy. Hitting the queen while also defending the pawn. No need to be afraid of queen b4 because there is simply c3 and actually the queen gets trapped. Only square is b5, but there will be a nasty queen trap after the check, and then the bishop is picking up the queen with a winning position. So just wanted to leave that out there. I definitely see this from time to time in my students' games. But the black player goes cd4, and after ed4, d5, c3. I think this is definitely a super common structure for the low-rated games where black is releasing the tension early on by taking, which is a thematic mistake. With the bishop locked inside the pawn chain. Oops, I just got a notification. Not sure if you saw that on the screen, but whoever it was, you made it into the video. Black goes for the move bishop to d6. And now Geta goes bishop to g3, which is something that I like to do, which, yeah, obviously was taken from his games. Now, there is definitely nothing wrong with bishop takes on d6. White is still better, but I think it's potentially making black's life a little bit easier, and I will try to explain why in a minute. So, if we would go for bishop takes on d6 here, then they will take with the queen. We can develop both sides castle, and in this position, I think 80% of your opponents are gonna play e5. Still, after d5, all these trades, get a rook in the game, or whatever you play, White has like a slightly better position with any legal move that it can play, kind of, because of the isolated pawn. But I think it's kind of easy for black to play with this bishop now opened up. So white is still better there, but I think we're just making their life a little bit easier. Because when you go bishop g3, I think it's going to be much harder for your opponents to get the 5 push like at all. Now, one of the critical lines that's exemplifying that could be if, let's say, now they would be playing a move such as rook e8. I mean, there's like simply knight e5 as a move, which, yeah, was not a thing after you take and then the queen takes, having good control over e5. If they do this, just knight e5, stop their push, go f4, bishop h4, castle, do a rook lift, take on f6, bishop h7. I mean, really, if you're below 1500, you can just win these games on autopilot like that. In the game, black went b6. We see queen e2. Nice thematic move, okay? Super juicy square for the queen. Please avoid queen to c2. Beginners do that all the time, thinking there is some kind of magic battery with the bishop. No, it's not. The file is open. Why would you want to do that? A lot of the time you'll notice that you can run against stuff like knight to b4. In this position, for instance, just using the pin, you cannot take as the queen drops, and you'll have to play an awkward move like queen b1, but then Black can take, wins that important bishop, maybe even plays knight e4 next, f5, and they just have a very easy game. So definitely stop playing queen c2. Queen e2 is a much better square in general. And here you see why cd4 is a mistake earlier. Because if you think about it, in these positions with pawn on c5 and pawn on e3, the queen is not really like fighting for e5 square since there's a pawn that's just sitting in between on e3. But now, queen is doing a tremendous job and there is no way black can ever get this break and release their pieces. King continued bishop b7, castle, and now bishop takes on g3. Now, a good example, if they play rook e8, here we can just go for, I think bishop takes on d6 looks quite nice, followed by knight e5. Black cannot take us, we're gonna take back and win a piece due to the thematic fork. And very next move, we're ready to play f4, bring rook a e1, rook f3, rook h3, again, just swing the rook over, a big attack against the enemy king and very easy position to play. All because we have good against, oops, that's good, and that is bad bishop. In the game, black decided to take. We see pawn takes, rook c8, and now rook a e1. I really want you to pay close attention to how Gyata continues in the next phase of the game. After we see a knight trade and knight d7. He starts by playing the move knight f3. I know maybe a lot of you would have rushed with f4. Or at least that's maybe something I would have done a while back. But this is usually not as precise. It's often way more convenient to activate a knight first with knight f3 and then get it to d4 and only then push the f-pawn. Like sometimes you don't even have to push it, but the way white has placed the rooks, they are quite nice. Yeah, nicely positioned. Maybe forgot to highlight the fact that he used rook a e1 specifically for this motive that he's planning to play knight e5 f4. Otherwise, the rook on f1 may look rather clumsy in this position. If you play rook f e1, it's not like really a mistake, I would say. It will take you a bit of time to reroute them, but okay. You shouldn't really aim to play every single game of yours perfectly if you are, let's say, newer to the game. Rook f1 perfectly fine there, okay? Now, we got into this position after knight e4 and after a6, which was kind of a funny move. Sort of debating Gyata in taking, but of course he did not. Because, well, there's like many things that could happen. I didn't even check this move, but I guess simply knight e5 is fine. Also, there is rook a8 picking up a2 pawn, so that's not really like an issue. But when you have such a nice position, you don't just trade the enemy's worst piece. Here he played queen h5. Simply threatening mate in one, and not really hoping his opponent does not see, but kind of forcing black to make a weakening move, like g6, h6, which is gonna give us a hook. Now, instead of this, there's obviously nothing wrong with f4. I think this perhaps may have been even stronger. In the case of g6, just go g4, having both ideas to rook lift and to push on the kingside with f5, just kind of a crashing position already. He uses a different idea, playing queen h5, threatening mate, and then black just blocks the attack by playing g6. We see queen to g5, keeping an eye on the e5 pawn, and now b5 gets played. Gyata starts a very instructive rook lift, because after b4, this is also not only aggressive, but quite prophylactic, since now he just plays the move bishop b1. The rook is playing a nice role in protecting the c3 pawn, threatening then g4, and then bring the rook over. And then the rook is going to be not only attacking the king, but still protecting that pawn on c3, so it's quite nice. We see pawn takes, knight c5, g4. Okay, very clever move, no need to rush with f4. He's just trying to get some action going onto the h-file. Now in the game we saw knight e4. In case of queen e7, the right call would be to keep the queens on, since we want to play for the attack, and therefore it makes less sense to trade. In the game there's knight e4, bishop takes on e4 immediately, exchanging black's strongest piece, and then rook h3, which kind of already provoked black to freak out because there's like a threat of queen h6 and the pawn is very hard to protect. Apparently the computer is not really that afraid, since queen e5 will be making it quite difficult to mate, but definitely black is much better. But after f5, the position is just transitioning into, yeah, sort of a technical win, we should say. Then he just solidified this pawn on f6 with g5. Now it's definitely book win territory, rook e8. Opponent hang the bishop, but white is just winning with something like knight e3 c4 coming to d6. This is just a monster pawn. Yeah, I mean, opponent hang the bishop, but the position was still lost, and Geta just mated him with queen h8. So, okay, what's to learn from this idiotic game? Why did I pick it? Just the most random game of all time. Why the heck is getting featured into the video? You may be wondering. Well, I do believe that you're gonna get this structure quite a lot if you're somewhere below 2000. I mean, you let me know in the comment section. Maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I hope this yeah, makes it a little bit easier to understand what's like the optimal way to deal with this early CD4 in the C5 lines, and hope it helps to understand a bit better why I prefer bishop g3 over the trade. Nothing really wrong with the trade because later into the video we're gonna be analyzing one of Kamsky's games on how he is squeezing the send game against the isolated pawn. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and let's move on with the next game. So in the following game, Geta is playing against a player that's rated roughly around 2300, and we're gonna be seeing one of the most common main lines. Okay, if you're like, let's say, below 1500, I kind of doubt that you're gonna see this very often in your games. I mean, it's gonna be there like sort of casually. It's not really the main thing that you wanna remember when it comes to like the move by move stuff, but I think this game still definitely can provide you with some useful general London system ideas. Just yeah, shouldn't really be the first thing to focus on. I mean, I literally have a video named if you're a London system beginner, click this. That's the one that you really need to be concerned of when they play the Chigorin. But yeah, anyways, we see knight to c6 by black, knight to d2, e6, knight gf3. We're not gonna be like talking about the move orders and this kind of stuff. I know you guys are sleepy already, so just try to keep it nice and quick. Black goes bishop d6, the probably most common position of the London system. Bishop steps back. If you own my London system course already, you may be wondering, wait a minute, I'm like super confused. When are we supposed to drop back, or when are we supposed to let them take on f4? So there is obviously no perfect rule that applies in all the cases. I mean, we can maybe just talk about like the majority of the cases in general when it comes to chess. And one rule that I like to use is whenever they play bishop d6 with a pawn on c5, so they have pushed it already and they have pressure in the center, we're going to be sliding back to g3. And the main reason is if you play bishop d3 now, the main issue with it is that they can take and play queen b6. And this is going to hurt. This is a very unpleasant double attack. So that is why here we step back to g3. And let's say in early bishop d6 lines, I normally recommend to play the move knight bd2 in the course. There is no c5 and we let them take. That's fine for us. Also in the course, we have an alternative for those of you that are maybe not that familiar with the structure, or perhaps you simply cannot stand it, just like how some people cannot stand my videos. You can also go knight e5, and that's interesting and avoids the structure. So there is that as well. That's like interesting, but not as good, I think, objectively. Anyways, that is bishop to g3, castles, bishop d3, b6. And I know what you may be thinking. We should be playing knight e5. And that in fact used to be the main move for quite a while. However, it is no longer the main move used at the top level. I mean, still, it's probably super popular online, but black has a pretty cute way to read out their pieces here. And that is to play, I think, bishop b7. Let's say we go for castle, then they go knight to e7. It's something like this, f4, knight f5, bishop to f2, and then they go bishop to e7. I might have butchered the move order there a little bit. I mean, I don't really play this line as white. I don't think it's great. It can be good only if they are not aware of this little thingy to maneuver the knight to d6. If you get in g5, they get good control of knight e4 and so on. If you're like a 1500, I mean, I would even go as far as say below 2000. You don't really need to be afraid of this, although I think compared to a few years ago, I think there are more like resources on the internet when you get these kind of so-called videos. Oh, here's the refutation of the London system, and yeah, this kind of things showing some ideas. Which okay, this is definitely a good thing, but White has obviously other things to do that will improve the line. So that's one of the main reasons why 95 is kind of out of the meta right now. I don't think he will ever come back in the meta against this at all. And there's basically two moves here. Queen e2, what Geta uses a lot, and this is the main recommendation that I have in the London course. Definitely very reliable and easy to play line. And the other one that's a bit more spicy, it's the e4 move, which I used a little bit as well during the London rating climb just to test it out. I think it's definitely fun to play, very interesting, but I think it takes a little bit more like experience and perhaps a bit of a sharper tactical eye, if you know what I mean. So definitely Queen e2 easier, leading to more like slower positions, maybe getting into kind of slightly better endgames as we're gonna see. And yeah, we're just basically gonna be playing Rook to d1 and then go for the e4 push against more or less whatever black does. Queen c7 gets played into the game. Now, the weird theory goes here just Rook e8. Okay, that's apparently super useful. And after e4, you may be thinking point is to play e5. Nope, point is to actually just go bishop e7. That's how the best line, theoretically speaking, for black kind of is. Which is something that we're gonna be watching in the following game. It's just gonna be a legendary win by Kamsky against Goganov, just to kind of keep you hooked into the video already. I mean, if you're sleeping, please wake up. There's like good stuff to come. So, this did not get played in the game. Queen c7, in fact, way more common. I get to face this a lot in my online games as well. We see the move e4. So, against this line with b6, bishop b7, you go queen e2, rook d1, e4. Basically against everything, get a good position. We see pawn takes, knight takes, white takes with the queen, threatening mate in 1, and black usually plays g6. There is dc5 as a strong move, and Geta Kamsky already has a lot of effortless wins with this. Main point is that in case of bc5, after the bishop trade, there is a nice little intermediate bishop a6, double attack and forcing queen back, and then white gets a very risk-free endgame. I mean, in fact, Geta had like an easy win after something like this, 97. The knight goes in, then you just played rook d2. Just look at how annoying the knight on d7 is. I mean, it's like your land lord came in to collect the rent, but never left. That's like how annoying the knight on d7 is. Queen f4. The queen gives a check, and finally he plays h4. This move is kind of a bit of the lazy approach. It's a blitz game online, like nothing that serious, but still, it's kind of an annoying move to deal with. Like maybe he could do f3, g4, and then try to chainmate you literally by getting the pawn to h6. His opponent, however, panics, goes queen f5, just allowing a losing endgame, and he collected the c4 pawn and easily won the rest of the game. When it comes to Geta Kamsky, and one of the main reasons why he's able to stay in shape, I mean, the guy is, I think, I'm not sure, I may be wrong on his age. I guess he's like close to being in his 60s, but the guy still plays like a legend. I mean, if you check out his streams or like his online games, he's like always close to 3,000 by mainly playing the London system, and he's obviously not calculating as sharp as he was in his prime, but the guy knows the London system, and the guy is very good in technical possession. So if you're like trying to perhaps get better at this skill of converting winning possessions, converting, let's say, when you're having an extra pawn, definitely Geta Kamsky is, I think, one of the good players to watch out for. Just very solid, old school Soviet chess. Highly recommend. Yeah, besides that, in our game, Black was afraid of this and went for bishop takes on g3. We see pawn takes on g3 and then queen e3. Just very nice double attack, threatening queen h6, queen e7, queen goes there, and okay, only way to defend against the mate, just play f6. That's what he did. And after this move, there is simply bishop sack. Yes, you heard it right. Well, what's the point? You may be wondering. Queen g7 now looks to be like a lucky save, but think again because there's rook d7 at the end. Oh, but wait, there is rook f7 defending. You may be guessing why black didn't play it. Well, in case of rook f7, you can go rook h7, which is just a very fancy way of winning back the piece, because then we collect the rook and then the bishop, and we're having an extra pawn with a winning position. You know, Gata wins these. Also, this is just a bit of a fancy way to trade the rooks, to play rook h7. There is nothing wrong with the other sequence like as well, picking up the bishop. In the game though, king g6 was played and the rest of the game wasn't really that interesting. I mean, white just brought the rook in, defended against black's threats of winning pawns, defended, you know, against the one movers, c4, watching out for knight d5. And then, yeah, like giving away a2 for c5. Gata is just a legend in this kind of position. Just look at how beautifully he converts. Like rook d6, picking up another pawn. He's just like not even funny. He gives his opponents absolutely no counterplay. Look at this. Now the king is activating. Rook onto the 7th. Picks up another pawn. Offers the rook trade. Knight d3. Simply terrorizing his opponent. I mean, knight d5 is coming. First we push the pawns. And yeah, black cannot really do all that much. Simply there is no counterplay. He collected everything. Just make sure to not blunder forks, and yeah, opponent resigned because the knight was getting lost in the process. So that is definitely something you really wanna remember when you get into these b6 kind of lines. Do not go for the out-fashioned knight e5, because if your opponent watched like the right video, you may not get such a big attack after bishop e7 and then the knight gets onto d6. It's not such a fun game. And stick to the modern approach of playing queen e2, rook d1, e4. And into the next game, we're gonna see how, yeah, let's say the black players are dealing with this according to like one of the best lines right now by playing the sophisticated bishop e7. Alright guys, so for the next game, I decided to definitely go with a classical one. Garakamsky against Grandmaster Alexei Goganov, played in the Aeroflot tournament in Moscow 2016. And we're gonna get to see this line that I mentioned a few seconds ago, where black goes for the sophisticated rook e8 and then bishop to e7. Well, it's a bit kind of tricky to really justify why this is so clever and so on. Honestly, I'm like super happy when black plays this. He just gives us kind of a nice French after e5. And yeah, this used to be popular like maybe like 5 years ago. I think nowadays I consider it a pretty weak line. Maybe it's like somehow survivable, but I don't really get why anyone would play this way as black, frankly speaking. But anyways, just so you know, one of the main reasons why I decided to include this game in is because it contains the most epic final touch that I have ever seen. And no, I'm not just saying this to use any like kind of mind tricks to watch more of the video and help the algorithm. Even though, you know, a like would be appreciated, this is gonna be nuts, I'm telling you. If I could ever win a game like that, that would definitely be maybe a highlight of my career, besides checkmating Andrea Bottes in an over-the-board game. But anyways, we're not gonna get into that here. Black goes knight h5. We see the move a3, which is a nice move. In order to understand why this is so good, let's say white goes castle, which is an alternative, by the way. I think castle is quite clever as well. Quite easy to play. h4, I think, is the Lila approach, probably the best move in the position. This is my main recommendation in the London System course. and allowing a weird structure after knight takes g3, but there's a lot of hidden dynamics and potential Greek gifts in the position. Now, in order to understand the point of a3, let's say white castles. Black goes rook c8, and then what are we gonna do? Let's say we play rook e1. Now, the issue with this is there could be something like this and then knight b4. And I know you watch a lot of Agad Mater videos. You're aware of the fact that it's nice to keep the bishop. Okay, I get it. I understand you. But problem is bishop a6 is kind of annoying. Bad bishop activating could be potentially a fork. I mean, you can take, but then the black player is getting like so much counterplay. This is definitely something that we need to avoid, and this is what Gyara does immediately by playing a3. Just a very nice move, avoiding CD, knight b4 ideas at all. Okay, Gata is like, not today, buddy. Okay, it's fine. I got it, but not today. You can keep that idea for later. Now, sadly, the black player was quite upset. Alexei Koganov here and just goes c4. Which is a pretty bad move, but he found himself in a pretty bad opening. I mean, as I was saying, I don't get why would you really play this way as black. He goes c4. I mean, g6 is like the main move in the position, but still, it's not something that I would really recommend for black. Anyways, we see c4. Bishop goes back, obviously. And now black goes g6. Restricting the bishop and so on. Please keep in mind that black is not gonna rush with taking the bishop since it's not really running anywhere. Now, this is gonna be the first time I'm actually asking you to pause the video, because white has an insane maneuver. Okay, if you're like new to the channel, you may have not seen this before. It's gonna be life changing. I'm telling you. You really wanna remember this. Because here's where like a lot of people, I don't know, what kind of, maybe just castle or run out of ideas. But not Gyara. And not you after watching this video and then winning next 10 of your blitz games. Because you're gonna be aware of this knight f1 move. And I know this just looks like a weird mouse slip, but you wanna be able to see the bigger picture. The knight is heading towards g4, which, if you think about it, looking at this position, the knight on g4 is a much more active piece than the knight on d2 was. So it's not really about trying to see it all the way till the winning blow, but just improving your position little by little. And Kamsky is like one of the very best at doing that. In the meantime, black tries to get some nonsense counterplay. White just goes queen e3. Idea is to go queen h6 and then maybe h4. I mean, h4, knight g5, something like that could be a thing. Black took, and then rook to b8. Taking the pawn, yeah. This is not really gonna save the day for black. I mean, with one flower, it's not gonna be spring. I think that's a saying that we have in Romanian. Probably it just sounds ridiculous and it does not make any sense, but I guess this is also one of the main reasons you're watching the channel. We go bishop to h4. Activating this guy, taking advantage of the fact that the bishop is no longer on e7. See queen to c7. Knight check would be very nice g4. The knight is like really bad. Knight g7, bishop f6, and like knight g5 incoming. King is just getting brutally checkmated, so that would have been no bueno. In the game, black goes rook b8. Bishop to f4, just activating the bad bishop. Idea to go bishop g5. And perhaps one of the best tips that I can give you. Whenever you see weak squares, yeah, like f6, h6, squares that cannot really be protected by a pawn. One of the key ideas to take advantage of them is changing the bishop that's covering it. So here it's the dark square bishop. If you can change that, you're way more likely to be able to use these squares. In the game we see bishop to c8. Taking wouldn't have really helped black's situation because there is just h4 and white still has an overwhelming attack with h5 next. And after bishop c8, simply bishop g5. Gata just plays it in very human fashion, very simple. Black tries rook to b3, simply h4, supporting the bishop and perhaps threatening to check and then play g4 like we saw before. After queen to b6, bishop c2, just avoiding the one mover. Rook takes on b1 while gaining a tempo. Rook takes on a3, bishop trade, and then queen h6. Already starts to be smelling like checkmate. Knight f6 ideas, and it's gonna be like really hard to defend. However, do not get relaxed, because there are still plenty of ways you can mess this one up. Because after knight f5, hitting the queen, you may be tempted to celebrate early after bishop takes and then knight g5. It literally looks like checkmate, but there is knight f6. You may be wondering, well, that is just gonna run into checkmate. But there is queen takes on f6, and yes, you can collect your beautiful pawn on h7, but not very easy to make progress since this is a pretty awkward pin. Gata does not fall for this, obviously. That's why he's better than we are. I mean, us mortals. And he just plays 93. What this does, it's creating an insane threat of taking d5 and deflecting the f6 knight from protecting h7. In the game, f4 happens, knight takes on d5. You cannot take the knight since there is queen h7 and mate on f7 next. So queen d8 gets played, and still taking the knight would be an inaccuracy since there is no checkmate after this. But here is the classiest finish of all time. This is what I was referring to in the beginning of the video and why I like really insisted you make it this far. So you may even pause here for a second, try to find the best move for white, because this is simply unbelievable. Because after the next move, black simply resigned, and white made a king move. Can give you that. He reached the king towards the g1 square, got the rook over it, and the opponent resigned because this move is unpinning. If you take the knight now, there is that, and that is mate. And I mean, how sick is this? You just short castle, opponent resigns. I don't know, maybe just me being weird, maybe you don't find it like cool at all, maybe you already unsubscribed. That's fine, I can understand that. But yes, I was just like speechless when I first saw this game. I think I actually maybe saw it from one of the older Nicolas Sedlak London books out there, but just impressive to me. Okay, I think it's enough about this, and we can move on to the final game of the video, and perhaps the most interesting one, because I'm gonna be boring the hell out of you with a typical London system endgame next. Alright, for the final game, we've got Yuan King Yu with the black pieces, 2373, assuming close to international master, and definitely plays a very solid opening. Not gonna be our main focus. He goes for like a very good move order, bishop takes on f4, cd4. What black does is like very good move by move stuff. The black pair like really knows what he's doing here. And he gets like a sort of an equal position out of the opening, but it's not really gonna be the main focus for us, because our main focus is, okay, knight takes d4, sign of a weak move. This cannot be good. I'm actually gonna look this up with the engine. I didn't really check the move 94, but as you can see, anything else equal, 94. Why would you like release the tension and just give white that? Clearly, even somebody as weak as myself can spot that it's a mistake. So after this, white simply is better. Yeah, definitely you can get these possessions way easier. Like you won't have to wait for a mistake by your opponent, but this guy like really knew his opening. This is really the kind of position that we're gonna be discussing. Yeah, I think, as I was saying in the beginning of the video, after black gets in this like e5 push, this is the kind of position that we're gonna get, where generally white is slightly better, but not easy to actually win. But this is why we're recording this video, because it's simply a pure masterclass that I was about to watch in this game. That was actually played quite recently. So there is bishop to g6, and by the way, I do believe that this is perhaps played even after I released my course. I'm not sure. I was not aware of this game, so it's something new. but definitely very good. Okay, bishop g6 first decision. Question for you guys. You can let me know in the comments. Do you take or do you avoid the trade? That's, I think, the first part of understanding these positions. And yeah, make sure to let me know in the comments. Best move is not to take, okay? Sorry you got that wrong, but it's better to keep the bishop on the board here. Because the bishop on g6 is not really doing that much, plus this guy is defending our king quite nicely. And the rest of the game, still not gonna be super interesting, just instructive how white brings the king closer to the center and then tries to offer queen trade. And now we see a little bit of a hiccup with queen d4. I think it was a bit better to just start with queen c5 right away, but Gyara like clearly realizes his mistake and just plays it the very next move. And basically this is the position where the game starts, okay? Bishop c8, forced to protect the pawn. Okay, this is why we all gathered to this beautiful video. To see how white is supposed to win endgames like this. Definitely, if you want to be taking your London system to the next level, squeezing out this kind of things should be your cup of tea. Okay, maybe it will take a little bit of time, but simply playing this one out for a win will make a big difference. And okay, we're just watching the best player at the office right now in these type of positions. Because before, very good, stopping a5, king d6, and now king d4, fully centralizing, just the Soviet school of endgames. a4, very strong move. Black is unable to play b6 because the pawn drops, and after knight c7, simply a5. This is vital because we are fixing the enemy pawns on the light squares, and we have a light square bishop, meaning that they're gonna be a target. This bishop is pretty poor right there. The bishop has been really affected by the current inflation, and it's like really poor on c8. We see knight e6. That allows a knight trade, but f4 is a very strong move. Fixing literally all the pawns. That's just a disaster. Simply get it to this point, you're winning. How? Well, still, even to me, that's not super obvious, but it's definitely, I think, quite obvious that we're never going to lose this, and we can just play it on forever. But hopefully, this video is going to give you a bit of a better idea, because I really try to make it easier to understand how do we win this. So first of all, I'll actually just show you what happened in the game and how Gyata easily won. Kept pushing the pawns, breaks with c4, and then don't play bishop takes on c4 like a pleb, but go bishop to e4, like a clever guy. Forcing king c7 and then king c4, the king is much more active. The enemy king has to protect these pawns, and we just have way more freedom. Bishop to e2, king e5, hitting e6 pawn. The endgame was easily won by white, g5, threatening to take and then infiltrate with the king and win the pawns. That's why he played king e7, but after king d4, gaining a tempo with the bishop, and yeah, the king is just way too fast, infiltrating, simply collecting the pawn on h6, and yeah, getting a winning position. h5, final Zugzwang. They need to make a move. It's funny that if black is in time to do something else, this could actually escalate into a draw. Pretty funny, I know, because of that. But these things, when it comes down to a tempo, it looks close, but it's not really that close. It just looks like that. And yeah, okay, Gata just won the game. So this looked way too simple to be true. I know. Okay, let's see how black would have potentially defended better. I know you are all wondering about that, and you're definitely not sleeping while watching the video right now. Okay, first of all, bishop h5. Bit of a mistake that allowed this kind of crashing c4 bishop e4 blow. Very classy by Gata. Now, how about they keep the bishop on this diagonal? You may be wondering, so there is no bishop e4. Well, then white is still gonna be squeezing with g4. The king cannot really move, since that allows king e5, which is just winning in itself because the king is too active. And the bishop has to move, then c4 is strong, just bishop takes. And then after bishop c6, bishop d3s, the most precise with bishop e4 ideas, but first g5. Yeah, well, you cannot really take, because usually the main idea is to take with the f pawn, and we're gonna use the outside passer and win. In the case of bishop to c6, the point is to go for takes and then bishop e4. Forcing bishops off, and then the following endgame is just one, because our king is a bit more active and position is equal, but we're gonna be able to win the h5 pawn and with that the game. So material was equal, but activity decides it in white's favor. Now that's bishop c6. Instead of it, another better defense could have potentially been like bishop e8. You may be wondering how do we actually like win against that? Well, king c5 is once again the most precise move apparently. And this has ideas to play g4, g5 next. In case of bishop d7, just g4. I mean, on bishop c6, I think we just trade and it's like an easily winning endgame. I think h5 now is a nice way to block all the pawns and then the king is infiltrating. And on bishop d7, just keep advancing. Now the king is going to e5, taking advantage of the fact that the king has to defend the pawn. And after trades, h5 is just a nice little touch. You cannot take because that gives white the outside passer. We take e6 and then win the other guys. Use our h-pawn as a deflection. And on king d7, well, we just take and we infiltrate. That wins the game. So, okay, that was a quick guide. I think very useful, definitely something I wish I studied first when I got my hands on the London system. Definitely something you wanna have in mind, how to win this type of end games that you see right now. These are like super common and can definitely get a lot of effortless wins. So yeah, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed these videos. Let me know in the comment section if you wanna continue this kind of series that we have. I mean, we do something similar with the Caro-Kann. This is like the first episode with the London, so you let me know whether you wanna continue with other players. I mean, maybe for next video we could use like I don't know, somebody like Nikola Sedlak, maybe Berkesh Ferenc, maybe Nihal Sarin, some of the up and coming guys. So yeah, thanks again for watching and see you around the channel. Take care.